Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. Welcome to another Ramadan reminder podcast from Os Halal Services. Today we're going to discuss share with you the third pillar of Islam, which is sadaqah, which is zakat and charity. Now, charity is at the heart of Islam. Muslims us Muslims believe that everything we are given is bestowed upon us by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and therefore nothing, not even our bodies, belong to us, but to Allah. We are merely trustees of these bounties, and we are to use them in the best ways that Allah wills, to uplift the rest of it, to uplift the rest of His creations. Charity, sadaqah or zakat in Arabic, is the third of the five main pillars of Islam, and thus a fundamental teaching of the Islamic faith. Being charitable and taking care of the weak and poor are essential aspects of the Muslim character. And charity is so important that it comes only after the declaration of faith, the shahada, and our salah, and our prayers. The two other pillars are fasting during the month of Ramadan and the Hajj to Mecca for every Muslim who's healthy and finances permit. Charitable giving is one of the most important responsibilities in Islam because it impacts the welfare of the individual and society as a whole. It is considered the noblest way of spending wealth. Charity is connected to generosity, a virtue that, not surprisingly, is central in Islam. It is considered a quality of the soul which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to those He loves, those who are not attached to material wealth and instead use what they are given to please God in every way and make the world a better place. That is, it is not the generous person herself or himself who possess the attribute of generosity, but Allah who, because of His love for the person, causes the person to be generous. The distinction is essential to understanding Islam as a whole. Now, Muslims generally believe that everything is given to them from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has bestowed bounties upon humans, especially Muslims, and nothing, not even our bodies, belong to us, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the final owner. He is the owner of everything around, including His creations. So for us, we are just vicegerents to these bounties which He has shared with us, and we are to use them in the best of ways as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wills, to uplift the rest of His creation. It is the same with wealth. Wealth does not belong to us, but is only a matter of being loaned to us from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wealth has been given to us so that we can administer what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mandated in the Quran, believe in Allah and His Messenger, and spend on others out of what you have, as we have made you trustees. So for those who have attained faith and spend freely in God's cause shall have a greater reward. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is known as Habibullah, or the beloved of God. He is a perfect example of generosity. He was sent to this world to elevate morality and perfect human values and ethics. He was known as he was known as the excellent character. He's just beyond honesty. He's just very, very honest and generous man, even towards his enemies. I mean, there has been hadith which mentioned that in the Battle of Badr, he was so generous. He gave the back on his shirt to one of the fallen tabi'in, Sahaba. So generosity is defined as giving freely without any force, without expecting anything in return. The Prophet Muhammad SAW used to give in such a beautiful manner that he made those who took something from him feel they were the ones doing the Prophet a favor and not the other way around. He felt uncomfortable keeping money or food in his house and at the end of the day without having distributed them to those in need. It has been reported by Aisha radiallahu an, sometimes he has gone without food for 3 days. Just as generosity is extolled as a virtue to be cultivated, greed and hoarding are discouraged and abhorred. Most of what is prohibited in Islam is forbidden because it is considered a source of systemic and universal and not just immediate harm. There is hardly a more pertinent illustration of this principle than the injunction against hoarding and the gravity of greed as a sin. Greed is a serious form of trespass against one's own soul and against the community and creation at large, including nature. It is a form of spiritual disease and destructive enough to merit hell. This is part because holding is a sense of usurpation of God's role as a true owner. So when you hold something, you tend to want to own it, but then that goes against the grain, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the true owner of all wealth, and it becomes a breach of Allah's trust. The Prophet was generous in every way, not just with his wealth, but with his time and kindness. For generosity is not limited to material things. Even a smile is a charitable act. Your smiling face to your brother is charity. Commanding good and forbidding evil is charity. Your giving directions to a man lost in the land is charity for you. Your seeing for a man with bad sight is charity for you. Your removal of a rock or thorn or a bone from the road is charity for you. Your pouring what remains from your bucket into the bucket of your brother is charity for you. A hadith, Prophet Muhammad, which was reported. So, there are several types of charity in Islam. The most important ones are the obligatory charitable giving in the month of Ramadan, zakat fitra, and zakat as a whole has to be said to be one of the best forms of distribution of wealth in the Islamic society. And the other form of charity is sadaqah, which is voluntary giving. Zakat is mandatory. So zakat in Arabic means purification, growth. It means blessings. In practical terms, it is 2.5% of one's wealth calculated on a yearly basis, an annualized threshold, which you pay 2.5% from the threshold. And zakat is a form of taxation that helps gives back to the economy, the society. And also it's a way where you show signs of thankfulness for your wealth. Sadaqah comes from the word sadaq, which means truth. All righteous actions are considered sadaqah. This type of voluntary charity can be given to anybody, and it includes time, advice, kindness, a smile, volunteering, helping somebody with their chores, removing an obstacle from the road, etc. So charitable giving keeps calamity away and ensures our needs will always be met. Those who spend in charity will be richly rewarded. Indeed, wealth does not increase by giving in charity, but it rather grows and is purified, increasing also the individual's blessings and spiritual strength. Charity is mentioned in the Quran at least 19 times, stressing its importance in Islam. Pre-modern Muslim societies were built on charity. Those who were poor were taken care of because it was considered the responsibility of each community to protect its weak, orphaned, and destitute. Because wealth belongs to God, the poor have an indisputable right upon it. It is not seen as a great act of piety to feed and giving charity to the poor. It is rather the obligation of those who were giving plenty. For this reason, the poor have rights over the wealth of the rich, even as the rich bear a larger burden that comes with their abundance. So, charity is one way where the person basically shares their responsibility across the society. It helps every human being channel their need to be ethical and following Allah's will, not their wishes, but more their Allah's will. So it follows then that in Islamic jurisprudence, human ownership is empowerment by agency and is constrained by the terms of conduct expected of humans dispensing of Allah's wealth. The duty to be charitable includes financially caring for the poor and the community, but also one's own family. These are considered part of the rights of God. Thus, human agency regarding how to dispose of financial resources is limited by the requirement that part of God's wealth remains with him, so that he can ensure that the prosperous gives to those who are not. The very concept of property and ownership is turned on its head in Islam. We are born and we die stark naked. Nothing material is intrinsic, and the body is but a dust at the end of it. As spiritual vessels, first and foremost, we roam the earth temporarily to fulfill and advance Allah's greater design, which in the end we say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Verily we belong to God and to Him do we return. Hence, it is not a great favor to give to others that which does not belong to us to begin with. We are merely distributors of God's wealth. Therefore, when we give in charity, we are as essentially sharing Allah's blessings with His creatures. Because we don't own anything, we don't lose anything by giving it. Instead, we gain rewards from Allah. Clearly, charity in Islam is a whole worldview and way of life. So, charity must be given for Allah's sake and in secret, not for worldly gains, not for prestige, not for growing a reputation of being altruistic. This would detract from the giving and deprive the blessings associated with charity. The edict of secrecy and discretion is meant to prevent boastfulness and protect the integrity and honor of the person receiving the charity, which in itself yet another act of sadaqah. Hence, charity should be given to attain God's pleasure and forgiveness, not to gain anything from other human beings. However, above all, Islam is a religion of moderation and fairness. It is the faith of the middle way, which means we should not give so much in charity that we become needy ourselves. Reverence and kindness towards oneself are not only imperative but indeed essential. So until the next podcast, wabillahi tawfiq wal hidayah. Wassalamu alaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh.